Welcome to today's webinar, Master the Art of Zero Touch Deployments. My name is Nick Thompson. I'm with Jamf, and I will be your host today. Let's take a look at our agenda. We're going to do just a brief overview of Jamf for anyone that's not familiar with us as a company. But then we're really going to dive into the meat of today's presentation here, which is all about zero-touch deployments. And we're going to break it down in a few ways here. First, we're going to look at Apple's deployment programs, which will make zero-touch possible. Then we'll talk about the benefits of why you should consider using zero touch. And then we'll take a look at zero touch deployment for macOS and for iOS in action and see what it actually looks like for your end users. We'll wrap up with some next steps, and we'll do that Q&A at the end as well too. Just a brief overview here of Jamf for those who aren't familiar with us. Our mission here is to help organizations succeed with Apple. This is all we do. We are a management company only for Apple devices. We don't do Android. We don't do Windows. We only do Apple. And that really plays to our strength because we can stay up to date with anything that Apple does, and we can fully focus on just the Apple ecosystem. Now, we support organizations succeed with Apple with our two products. They are Jamf Now and Jamf Pro. Jamf Now is really simple mobile device management, no IT required. It's really great for smaller organizations and maybe somebody that doesn't have a dedicated IT department. And then there is Jamf Pro, really Apple management for IT professionals. Again, you sort of see a quick comparison here between the two. Now is all about easy device setup, simple management, whereas Pro really goes through the entire lifecycle management of Apple devices here, starting off from doing zero-touch deployments to configuring them, getting the right apps to them, doing extensive inventory, gathering security controls, and providing your users a unique way to get apps without having to bug IT. Today's presentation will primarily focus on Jamf Pro, but if you have questions about Now, I highly encourage you to just check out our website and you could sign up for a free version of Now at any time. And here's what the two products look like. It's all just web-based. You're accessing everything in a modern web browser, and you're doing all of your management controls right from there. Now, a little bit about who we serve. We help more than 15,000 organizations to manage over 9 million Apple devices. Of course, you see us in sort of the traditional markets where Apple's in, tech and marketing, but also in the top Fortune 500 companies, the most valuable brands, and a lot of schools across the globe as well, too. We're very proud of that. And like I said before, we keep up with Apple. We've been doing this for 15 years now, and anytime Apple comes out with new releases, we are right there on top of it with whatever they come out with. So most recently, of course, macOS High Sierra and iOS 11 came out in the fall, and we were able to support those operating systems right away. We've been doing that for a while now. So that's enough about us as a company. Let's start talking about zero touch. And to start off, we really need to understand what are Apple's deployment programs, sort of this umbrella term for the different programs that are out there from Apple. And there's a number of them out there. First off, there's something known as the Device Enrollment Program, or DEP. And I'll define that in just a minute here. There's another program out there called VPP, or Volume Purchase Program. And there's another program out there called Apple IDs for Students. If you're in the enterprise, you probably aren't too worried about that, but it is a program that has existed. And all of these can be found on Apple's website, and these are free programs to sign up for. You simply just go to deploy.apple.com, and you create essentially an Apple ID that is tied to these programs as the administrator to sign up for them. When you do sign up for this stuff, you do need what's known as a DUNS number, which is just Apple's way of verifying that you are an organization and not an individual, because these are programs for an organization. So let's define what these programs mean. This first one, the Device Enrollment Program, or DEP. This is really what enables you to do zero-touch deployment. It allows you to be able to unbox an Apple device, hand it to a user, and they will set it up on their own, and it gets configured automatically. The way it works is you simply order devices from Apple or from your resellers, and they're linked to your Apple customer number. And then enrollment happens during setup. And what's great too is you can tie any purchase that you've made from Apple, dating all the way back to March of 2011, can be tied to your DEP account. And of course, we'll be diving much deeper into what this looks like here in a minute. The other deployment program that's out there is Apple's Volume Purchase Program, or VPP. And this lets you license Mac and iOS apps from the app stores. And it allows you to distribute apps to an individual, or you can distribute them directly to the device. If you choose to do the latter, if you choose to just deploy it to the device, that means you don't have to use Apple IDs at all. This program can be Apple ID independent. And again, DEP and VPP are free programs that you can sign up for. It just simply requires that you buy your Apple devices either from Apple directly or from a reseller that supports it, and that you buy your apps through this volume purchase program, or the portal here. So those are the two big programs. But you should know that something's happening on the back end here from Apple. Currently, we could sort of consider these deployment programs a first generation of, if you will. Apple's rolling out a second generation of these programs in a more consolidated portal. The main functionality is exactly the same, but the back-end portal is just a lot better, and they're expanding off into the future here. So they're breaking this up based on what type of organization you are. So you may have heard of something called Apple School Manager in the past. There's a Apple Business Manager that is currently in beta right now from Apple. And the idea would be that you can sign up for these deployment programs right now, and then based on whatever sort of organization you are, either a school or a commercial organization, you can then migrate to the appropriate one. So just know that that's happening in the background here, but it wouldn't stop you or slow down your deployments in any way. Just know that they're making a bit of a change moving forward here. Okay, so that's Apple's deployment programs in a nutshell. Now let's talk about why would you want to do zero touch? Because you're probably today either doing imaging or some other sort of enrollment, and you might be asking yourself, well, why would I want to do this? Well, we believe that IT is busy. You have a lot to deal with. You have got all the tickets that you need to deal with on a daily basis. You've got incoming phone calls. You need to fill out purchase orders sometimes for your vendors. You need to worry about deploying apps. You need to worry about security constantly, patching things. Wouldn't it be great if you could just forget about an entire aspect that you're doing today? And that would be provisioning, or that would be, building images and maintaining those images. So when you look at the different enrollment options that are available today for both Mac OS and iOS, here's sort of the landscape, if you will. On the Mac side of things, you can do imaging. It is something that is very time consuming, however, and can take a while to just build up your images and to maintain them and to deploy them properly. Then you also have the ability to do like a network scan to pull in any devices, or you can do a user-initiated enrollment as well too, where a user simply goes to a website, they download a little enrollment profile, and it enrolls their device. On the iOS side of things, very similar too. You can either enroll a device using Apple Configurator, or you can tell your users to go to a URL. Both require that either the user touches the device or IT touches the device and goes through these very specific steps. Of course, when we look at the device enrollment program or Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager in the future, that is really what we mean by zero touch. And this works pretty great because if you're not familiar with the back end service of how communication happens to Apple, this is what it uses. It uses something known as the Apple Push Notification Service, or APNS for short. And APNS essentially maintains a constant connection to your devices so you don't have to. That means that you can push different things to your devices. You can push commands, you can push apps, you can push profiles that tell the device how to behave. And this is really known as the Mobile Device Management Framework, or MDM. And MDM is pretty great. It works across the entire ecosystem of your Apple devices. So it works on Mac, it works on iPad, it works on iPhone. It even works on Apple TV as well too, which is pretty cool. If you haven't considered Apple TVs in the enterprise or at your school, I would highly recommend them. And you do it so using these little profiles. So again, MDM is the built-in management framework to Apple's devices. And it lets you build these profiles to define various settings inside of the operating system. And all of this is just delivered over the air using that push notification service that we just talked about. These are little XML files that you can build using Jamf. So what can you build? Well, you got a bunch of different options. And here are just some quick examples here. You could do some basic profiles such as passcodes and restrictions and your Wi-Fi network. You can define your user accounts. So you could build out their email accounts for them so they don't have to manually type in all of their email information. Or you can put down some security profiles as well too, like certificates. And some more advanced things, such as defining how the dock behaves or how Finder behaves. And while MDM on the Mac is pretty good, a lot of organizations need a little bit more control on the Mac side of things. And so that's why we actually have an additional management control for the Mac specifically, and that is our Jamf agent. The Jamf agent is essentially just a binary that gets automatically installed after enrollment. So after the DEP process enrolls the device, this binary gets installed. And it lets you create this hidden admin account that you get to control. You get to control the username and password of this hidden admin account. And the reason why you build a hidden admin account with this is that it enables you to have remote root access to your Macs. And that would allow you to then run things such as policies and scripts, install software, and a whole lot more. In fact, here's everything that is possible with the Jamf agent. So you can install package files, enforce file vault, which is the built-in encryption tool to Mac. You can bind devices to your directories. You can run a script. Anything that can be a terminal command can become a script. You can set the firmware password, modify user accounts, and everything else that you see here. So what you end up with here is complete control over your devices, the mobile device management framework plus the Jamf agent. Combined, this really lets you be hands-off. You can simply order devices from Apple, have them shipped to your end users. As it goes through the enrollment process, it will automatically enroll itself into Jamf, and then you get to apply all of the appropriate settings that you want and any sort of additional management commands and any software that you want all over the air. It's kind of like wireless imaging in a way. And that's really the true benefit of zero touch, is that you get to spend your time doing other things that would be important to you rather than having to do that manual provisioning process. So let's take a look at it now in action here for you. So again, this is what we're kind of talking about here, is that we're replacing this old version. You know, this is sort of the traditional imaging provisioning workflow where you'd buy your devices from your vendor. You spend a lot of time preloading up an image, and then you probably have to store these somewhere because you don't have sort of on demand or resource ready devices. And then once you hire a new user, you eventually ship it to the user. All the while, that image is getting out of date. It probably has security patches that need to be patched already. And it's a bad experience for the end user, and it's a bad experience for the IT department. This is the zero-touch deployment process with Apple. Simply order it and ship it to your users. And there's a little something special in the middle of there where Jamf wirelessly provisions it. So again, the way that you do this is in sort of three phases. You prepare, and then you purchase, and then you deploy. So prepare, you're going to sign up for Apple's deployment programs. And again, that's the DEP, VPP programs, or Apple School Manager, Apple Business Manager once Business Manager is ready. Then you're going to essentially download a little token file that you get outside of those portal programs, and you're going to upload that token file into your Jamf server. That essentially links the communication between the two. You'll then configure any sort of enrollment settings that you'd like to have, and I'll show you that on the next screen here. And then you'll start buying your Apple hardware. So you simply order your Apple hardware. Again, either get it directly from Apple or from a reseller that supports DEP. Make sure you ask your reseller, and if they don't, highly consider switching to a reseller that does support DEP. And then you will assign devices for enrollment. So as you order devices from Apple, you'll get the serial numbers from them. And those serial numbers can just be checked to say, yes, I want these serial numbers to be automatically enrolled. And you can even automate that too. You can just say, assign all of my devices for enrollment. And then, of course, you'll send devices to your users. They'll unbox it, turn it on, and these devices enroll automatically. Now, I mentioned some options. You have some options as far as what you'd like to control during that enrollment process. And here are the different categories and settings that you can do. So you can display your organization's information. You can put in your contact information there. So if you'd like them to reach out to IT, you can populate it with your information there. You can automatically assign new devices. So anything that you order can just be automatically linked to your account. And then you can even assign them to different sites inside of the Jamf Pro server there. As the device boots up for the first time, you can also require authentication. So if you want them to log into their LDAP credentials, you can do that. And you can control what sort of MAC account is created. So you can restrict admin rights, or you can enforce a passcode right away. Or you can skip an account creation altogether. You could just make them network-based accounts if you like those. MDM profile, so you can make sure that management is mandatory, and you can prevent them from removing the MDM profile as well too. So you get a lot of control there. And what's really nice is you can also skip all of those traditional screens that you see during setup. So I can skip Apple ID, I can skip terms of service, I can skip diagnostics and registration, and it just goes through the only screens that I want my end users to see. So we've talked about all this conceptually here. Let's see what it looks like in person. So I'm going to run through a quick video here showing you the enrollment process, first for a Mac and then for an iOS device. So here's our Mac booting up, and I'm just walking through the Setup Assistant. I am connecting it to a Wi-Fi network first, and this is necessary because it needs to talk back to Apple in order to identify that this device was part of an organization. Then you saw that remote management screen there. That's really what says this device needs to be managed. My end user is now creating a local computer account. And again, I get to control whether they're an admin or a standard account. And now my Mac's been enrolled. And you saw a little notification come in there. And that notification just notified the user what was happening. And in the background, I'm doing a number of things just happening in the background right here. You just saw Launchpad bounce. That I just installed an application over the air. I also installed some Wi-Fi settings and some security controls on this Mac. Additionally, the app that you see in front of you is something called self-service, and self-service was installed in the background as well. This is part of Jamf Pro that you as IT get to control. You get to populate this with any information that you would like to. These can be apps, these can be settings, these could be scripts. And you'll notice it's also branded. This is branded to Acme here. You can brand it to whatever your organization desires. And it's a great way for users to get the things that they need without having to bug IT. Just simply one click on things and it downloads and installs whatever they choose to do. So that's what the zero touch process looks like on the Mac. Let me just show you on iOS now too. Very similar process. Again, I just walk through my normal Setup Assistant here where I select my language, select my Wi-Fi. Again, here's that remote management piece. And now it's grabbing all of the appropriate configurations from my server. You'll see that some of the apps are starting to disappear because I've told them to. The password is also being required right here. So it's saying that I need my password, so I'm entering that in. The background was changed. That happened automatically. Self-service was also installed too. And here's what self-service looks like on the iPad. So again, a very similar experience to your Mac users. So again, this is what you're really now able to do. And this is how we actually hand out new Apple devices to our employees internally here at Jamf. 3 steps: open it up, power it on, and there is no step 3. That is really the true power of what you can do with zero touch deployments here. So let's recap here. Again, we looked at Jamf Pro, and specifically, we really just highlighted the zero touch deployment aspects. But of course, after the deployment process happens, that's when all the device configuration can happen in the background. And that was the mobile device management framework and the Jamf agent. Then, of course, you can deploy any apps that you would like to. You automatically gather a whole bunch of inventory data that you can run great reports on, and you can apply security controls. And of course, you get that great self-service app that we saw on both Mac and iOS there. Details about how the server is hosted. So you can either do it in the cloud or on premise. If you do it in the cloud, it's great. We've got data centers globally. Everything's automatic and easy for your upgrades. And we use AWS as our infrastructure. And of course, we go beyond our product as well too. So we have a wide variety of professional services to help you get things set up on site. We've got classroom training and certifications, and we've got global call centers that are filled with Apple experts to help you out whenever you need it. And of course, we've got a great community as well too with Jamf Nation. So again, we looked at the different Apple programs and services today and how we integrate with all of these: device enrollment program, volume purchase program, Apple push notification service, and Apple School Manager, and the upcoming Apple Business Manager as well. We also have some third-party integrations too. So we can integrate with your Active Directory. We can integrate with your single sign-on. If you're using SCCM or Intune, we've got integrations there as well, so you can share inventory data. We've got integrations with Cisco products for their ICE and Fastlane services. We've got a ServiceNow integration as well. Plus, we've got a really advanced API that you can really build on top of. So some next steps here for you. Contact us to get started. Just head over to jamf.com and click on the little chat with us button, and we'll help you get going. We can show you exactly what it would look like for your organization. We've got some other webinars as well too, so if you'd like to check out different aspects of the product or other technical topics, you can check those out. And of course, do check out Jamf Nation. Again, there's over 50,000 IT members here, and you can engage in the conversation and see what other people are doing and talk about what does it look like to transition away from imaging to zero touch. So with that, I want to thank everyone and hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.